So speaking as a PC gamer, I think Spider-Man 2 looks pretty groovy. I loved the 2018 game, story was great, gameplay was great, the mods were simply spectacular.
Who's ready for their hot, fresh cup of bodily harm?
So far, from what we've seen, Spider-Man 2 looks like a nice follow-up, and I'm excited to play the real version once the PS5 guys are done beta testing it. But as I'm sure many of you are probably aware at this point, there have been a number of Xbox-centric guys and gals who have been doing their best to preemptively poop down this game's face hole, similar to how the PlayStation guys were preemptively trying to systematically dismantle Starfield and the dumbest ways possible. I will say that, generally speaking, the Xbox guys aren't being nearly as aggressively hateful, I'll say, of Spider-Man 2 as the PlayStation dudes were of Starfield, although that doesn't mean there's no aggressive hate for this game from the Xbox side of the aisle. And also, since I started making this video, some particularly degenerate Xbox lads have been spreading Spider-Man 2 rumors around Twitter, so it might be time to update your muted words on that app if you care about that kind of thing. No, seriously, since I started making this video, this whole arc happened, and just, oh my lord. Like, watch this video, watch the Alex video. It's good, Jesus Christ, you people are sad. So sorry if my Starfield content made it look like I was an Xbox dude who would never make fun of ridiculous Xbox dudes, but that's just not the case. And I'm pointing this out because last time I made a video clowning on Xbox dudes, a bunch of people unsubscribbled, so let me just be absolutely clear to all the newer viewers here. This is a channel where we make fun of all the fanboys. And just because Sony has more fanboys doesn't mean the Xbox get a pass. And frankly, if you're an Xbox person, you should want to make fun of these people because they're making the rest of you look bad. But if seeing me make fun of Xbox fanboys makes you want to unsubscribble, then so be it, and we can consider this video the equivalent of a filter boss. Also, Peter Ovo liked one of my tweets recently, and now I feel like I have to repent, so it's not my fault. So, the other day, I was slapped in the face with this atrocious piece of internet from Asteranks. Who is Asteranks? Well, they're basically Unleashed or Red Dragon, but on the Xbox side. And they have 15,000 followers somehow. But on October 2nd, they tweeted out this. Gotham Knights, better than Spider-Man 2. Why did I say it like that? Spider-Man 2. Co-op? No co-op. Beautiful? Ugly. Better story? Story. What? Gotham City, small New York City, $20 a Game Pass, $70. Going piece by piece here, co-op is not an inherent advantage or disadvantage. I don't feel like I should have to say that, so we'll just go ahead and throw that point in the trash. But the second one actually really bugs me. To say Spider-Man 2 is an ugly game is dumb on its own, but to say Gotham Knights is beautiful? Like, bro, are we seeing the same game? Gotham Knights was ripped up and down the town square when it was coming out because it looked blatantly worse than the Arkham trilogy, which concluded in 2015. And last year, I replayed both Arkham City and Arkham Origins, and holy hell, both of those games look so much better than this. And even if you can get Gotham Knights looking good in the screenshot, it looks fucking awful in motion. And I'm not even talking about the frame rate. This game's capped at 30 FPS on consoles, but I'm talking about the clunky-ass animations that make characters look both weightless and 500 pounds at the same time somehow. Like, so much of Gotham Knights just looks unnatural in motion. But let's keep going here. What was your next point? Story? Ah yes, the amazing story of Batman is dead, and now I have to go punch the same 4 dudes forever, and maybe we'll bring him back to life. And minor spoiler alert, but that's only kind of a joke. Gotham City over New York City, this is such an unfair comparison because they're two entirely different kinds of games where the open world serves 2 different purposes. And then $20 on Game Pass versus $70, that's really the only potential truth you have here, assuming you didn't want to play the game for more than 3 months, because then it's actually more expensive, but I have my doubts that anyone is going to encounter that issue. So this tweet is dumb. You can disagree with my exact points, but I think we can all agree that comparing a painfully average and lackluster wannabe live service game to something like Spider-Man 2, before Spider-Man 2 was even out, is just kind of dumb. It's desperate, it's childish, and it's not a good look on you. But I think my favorite part about this post is the way he tries to defend it, because obviously he got plenty of pushback for posting this, but you can't have a horrible Twitter take without OP desperately trying to defend himself and refusing to just take the L and move on. Kino Tai says, I'm an Xbox guy too, but this just comes off as jealousy and envy. Come on, man, if this were an Xbox game, you'd literally be all over it. You'd use it any chance you got to cook Sony games. Astel says, nope, Gotham Knights is actually pretty good, more fun than Spider-Man. You should try it. It's on Xbox Game Pass. Hashtag not sponsored. I'm really struggling to see how you think that Gotham Knights is a better game than Spider-Man, other than the fact that Sony didn't fund it, you know? Like, I mean, I'm looking at the original tweet where you make your argument, and I'm just not seeing what you supposedly see in this game. Like, the best you've got here is that it's on Game Pass and has co-op, which, like, okay. Derek says 30 FPS, didn't mention that. He responds, it's smooth 30 FPS, and Spider-Man was showed at 30 FPS too, lol. Derek says 30 frames is 30 frames. Astel says on PC it's 60 frames and on Game Pass, so not excuse. What does that have to do with anything? First of all, smooth 30 FPS does not exist. But second of all, what does this mean? On PC it's 60 FPS and on Game Pass, so no excuses. Like, genuinely, what the fuck is your point? What does that mean? The game is 30 FPS on Xbox. It's more than that on PC. But how does that make up for the 30 FPS on console? Like, hey man, the game's 30 FPS on Xbox. Yeah, well, it's 60 on PC. Like, no one was talking about that. How is this a defense of anything? Derek says, but you are talking console, and on console it's only 30 FPS. And then the big smackaroo. I'm talking about the game itself. Whoever, where you play it, it doesn't matter.
You're not very bright, are you?
This might actually be the dumbest argument I've ever seen. The guy says it's 30 FPS, you say it's a smooth 30 FPS, whatever that means. The guy says it's still 30 FPS regardless of smoothness. You say it's 60 FPS on PC, which is irrelevant. The guy points out that PC frame rate is irrelevant. You say it doesn't matter where you play the game. But you're the one that brought up the PC version of the game. So, what? I've never seen someone so desperate for a dunk that they contradict themselves multiple times in a single thread. You went from it's a smooth 30 FPS to 30 FPS is okay because PC is higher to I'm talking about the game, not where you play it. Like, bro, give it up. You're the one who started the stupid fucking argument. You didn't have to draw comparisons between Gotham Knights and Spider-Man 2. Like, nobody made you do that. Joe responds, Spider-Man ugly? Excuse me? And then Astel responds, yep, with the same screenshots that every blind hater of this game has been spreading around. Fun fact, with this first one, zooming in on a character model far away from the camera is always going to look blurry. Like, that's how screenshots work. Zoom and enhance isn't a real thing, especially not with fucking screenshots. You take a screenshot and then zoom in on something that's not in focus, or is far away from the camera, or is just taking up fewer pixels, and it's going to be blurry. But I also love how people are still using this screenshot of New York as if it means literally anything. Newsflash, a lot of buildings in New York look similar. Shit, like, a lot of buildings in any major city will look similar. I grew up in the Seattle area, and let me tell you, like, if there were buildings above a certain size within a certain, like, vicinity of each other, they look like 80% the same. And I'll admit, it's been a few years since I've been to New York, but I'm really not seeing anything inaccurate about the way the architecture is portrayed here. Like, that's just the way things are. Like, when you circled these buildings as if to say, oh, they're the same building, but there's little differences between the ones that you circle, like, yeah, that's how buildings in a major city are. A lot of buildings will look largely similar other than little things like window placement, or maybe this one has a deck and this one doesn't. Like, any major city in the entire country is going to be like this. But as we come to a close here in this latest chapter of oh my god, how are people this married to a plastic box, I'll leave you with a reply from Old Mate Gamer, who wisely quoted Xbox themselves. Constantly comparing games to other games takes time away from actually playing games. And look, I'm all for kicking Sony while they're down. I think Sony is one of the worst companies in gaming today. But there are so many real issues that you could point out with Spider-Man 2 despite it not being out yet. Like, for example, it was recently reported that the game can be 100%ed in 30 hours, which I find a little eyebrow raising since the map is supposedly twice as big as the first one. So, like, what's the space being used on if not a lot more playtime? Like, I'm not saying the game needs to be 5 million hours long, but, you know, a 30-hour platinum time, is that emblematic of a lack of content, or is it just a shorter trophy hunt? It was also confirmed that the game is not going to get above 60 frames per second, but also you cannot turn off ray tracing, which, like, fucking why not? Just go ahead and add this game to the ever-growing pile of games that refuse to give the player high frame rate options for the sake of tipwitty graphics. You see what I'm doing here? I'm taking what we know about the game pre-launch and raising my actual concerns about it. You know what I'm not doing? I'm not raising nonsense comparisons between Spider-Man 2 and a game vaguely associated with the subscription service that I patron, because that would be weird and desperate and a complete waste of the internet, but also it will give me content, so that's cool. Toodles.